This episode of Planted is brought to you by Yorma's Choice.
The Radio Misfits Podcast Network.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. This is the Planted with Sara Payan podcast. I'm your host, Sara Payan, and today we have Jesse Ventura and Tyrel Ventura on the show. I'm so excited to be talking with you, especially during these exciting times around legalization. So welcome. Thanks for joining me today.
Great to be here. I'm enthusiastic. If people don't know it, cannabis is my major focus now, more so than anything else in my career at this point, and fully focused on the cannabis business, making it available for as many people who need it out there, or even more so who simply want to use a great product and a great plant that has been denied to us as a society for literally, shall we say, almost centuries.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things where, and there's so much that goes behind it because they've known about the medicinal uses for years. And when we started seeing prohibition, especially in the 40s, it's a real, and you being, not only have you had an amazing career in wrestling, you were the governor of Minnesota, so you've seen the inner workings of politics. This was also a play that was very racist, and it was also about industry. I mean, our own William Randolph Hearst from where I am in California saw it as a direct threat to the lumber industry. And of course, the DuPont saw it competing with plastics. And if we hadn't dealt with a lot of the prohibitionist language and the way that, policies were built around who knows who and making handshake deals, we may not have a lot of the environmental issues that we do these days.
Absolutely. You look at the history of cannabis and you realize we as humans, what a tragedy we've caused. It truly is. It's a human tragedy on the planet. And I remember arguing with religious people, and I would always look at them and say, wait a minute, if you believe in a supreme being, supreme power, a God, whatever you want to call it, and you think that this being made everything, well, then that means he made marijuana.
Right.
And I don't think he made it to be eradicated. That wasn't the purpose of what he had in mind. And so I try to get to religious people that way and say, wait, God made this plant. If you believe in God, then you have to believe he created the marijuana plant. And if you believe that God is as smart as everyone tells us he is, well, then he made this plant for the purposes that we're now using it for, obviously.
It's so true. It's so true.
And I love too talking about my friend Tommy Chong, who, many people, because he plays Tommy Chong, think that he's Tommy Chong.
Right.
Which he is, but he's also extremely intelligent man. And Tommy told me before, he said, they make a huge mistake when they divide it into recreational and medical. The entire plant's medical.
It is. It's so true. And that's, I did a lot.
Excuse me.
Oh, no, it's fine.
Those that smoke it for their mental or the head, they're doing it for their mental health.
Right. Right. Because at the end of the day, if you're using it to unwind, how do you feel? How are you relating to the people in your life? How are you filtering out that stress of the day? It's part of, even if you don't want to call it medicine, it can be part of a holistic wellness thing in your life.
It can simply, and we know today, we're learning today how important sleep is.
Yes.
Cannabis can be a godsend when you talk about being able to sleep soundly for a few hours or every day. It's amazing the effect that alone would have on people's lives.
Truly.
Because they're finding out sleep is so important, and we as humans, we don't get enough.
No.
We really don't let our bodies rest like they should. And if you let your body rest like it should, which to me, cannabis is it makes it so I can sleep at night.
Me too.
I'm a victim of non-specific neuropathy. Do you know what that is?
Yes.
I have it of the feet. And I went to the Mayo Clinic, the great Mayo Clinic. And they said, well, you have non-specific neuropathy. And I said, what's that? They said, that means your feet are numb and we don't know why. That's why it's non-specific. Then they informed me that 33% of all neuropathies are that. Mm-hmm. The person's numb and they can't explain why. Well, if you have it like I do with the feet, they tingle and you get these little shots of electricity. It'll keep you awake all night long.
Oh, it sure will.
But with cannabis, No. Cannabis dulls it down, makes it manageable to where I can go to sleep at night and sleep soundly. If I don't have cannabis, I'm not sleeping. It's that simple.
I totally hear you. I have peripheral neuropathy in my hands and feet left over from chemo. I worked in civil rights before I got into cannabis, and my mom is a clinical researcher, so I knew I could use it to help with nausea and stuff. But when I went back to school and I decided to temporarily work in a dispensary, which, hey, that ended up being a career. But I found that like gabapentin made me cranky. A lot of topicals weren't working the way I wanted to, but I found these Epsom salts that were infused with a 1-to-1 CBD to THC ratio, and soaking my feet at night made my feet feel like normal, if only for the evening.
Wow. I should get you to write that down. I should try that.
I'll send you a bag, Jesse.
You know, absolutely do it. Yeah, sure. I'd love to. Because lately I've been I tried a little bit of that laser treatment.
Well, what's that?
Well, it worked a little bit. And then I had to discontinue it because it was happening in Tucson and I came home to Minnesota. And so I haven't continued it. No, they take now light laser. And all they do is they put this laser, it looks like a little tiny camera, and it shoots 2 little beams of flat light. And they put it where it goes right across your ankle on the tops of both feet. Mm-hmm. And apparently that's where the big blood flow is. Mm-hmm. And the lasers apparently cause the veins and arteries to open up more.
Is it painful?
No, you don't feel nothing.
Wow.
You just sit there and they leave it on for about 10 minutes and then they shut it off. And I'd go in, I went for 6 treatments and I think I had 5 of them. I'd go about every 3rd day. And amazingly, all of a sudden hair started growing down on my lower legs, which I hadn't had for years. I'm 72 now. You know, and all of a sudden my lower legs, obviously it was stimulating enough for hair follicles because they're doing it for baldness now.
Wow.
They got these crazy hats people wear that are full of little laser things. And apparently this light laser can actually stimulate hair follicles back into life.
See, and that just kind of goes along with like, you know, in the industry, a lot of times, you know, you have people who really don't like cannabis and want to talk about everything that's going wrong with it. But then we also have our colleagues that are like, oh, it'll save the world. It'll wash your car. It'll save your marriage. You know, you'll live forever. But when we're looking at it as from like a holistic perspective, like integrative medicine and all the different things, it should be an important part of it. You know, when I work with people who are going through cancer, they'll say, oh, you know, I want to use RSO oil to cure my cancer. I'm like, okay, let's back up a little bit. Let's talk more about, you know, symptom management and not eschewing traditional medicine, but looking at it, how can it work together? And how can you talk to your doctor about, you know, the way you're using it to teach them so that they can help other people too? You know, because when I work with doctors, that's one of the things that they always say. the more input I get from my patients, the better I'm able to help other people. And conversation is normalization after all.
Yep.
And I could just imagine, like, being able to use a cannabis product alongside your laser treatment would be incredibly useful.
And it could help. Apparently, like I said to the girl, I said, now this is for my numb feet. I said, is this going to work? Do you think it really? She said, yes, there's been success with it.
Wow.
That people like you have come in, and after so many treatments, they're getting the feeling back. And I started to feel like it was working a little bit. Now, how much? Now I've heard the opposite too.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard guys have spent thousands of dollars getting it and it didn't do nothing. So I don't know if it's you as an individual are more susceptible to it helping you. Are all individuals different in their own makeup or how it'll work with you? I don't know. Maybe it's like cannabis because, different cannabis affects people differently on their own makeup.
Right.
Of whatever their body is. Different strains of cannabis will affect two people somewhat differently. I'm learning all that too.
Yeah, we're walking chemistry experiments. And, I think the biggest thing when we talk about educating people is really letting them know that what works well for somebody else. And I think it's great when you have an impactful conversation with somebody about their success with cannabis, but then you have to figure out what works well for you. And then so that we make sure that the stigma doesn't start to come back and even stronger, letting people know that even though we create our own endogenous cannabinoids, not everybody is good with phytocannabinoids, and that's okay. There are lots of other things that they can do too.
You know the story of my wife, right?
I would love if you would tell the story for our listeners.
Ty's mom, I guess it was a little over a decade ago. You kind of lose, when you get my age of 72 going on 73, those decades kind of start running together a little bit. But it was over a decade ago now, I think about 10 years ago or more. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, she started suffering seizures, epileptic seizures at later in life. And I mean, these weren't little tiny seizures. These were the type of seizures where she would go down.
That had to be terrifying.
Oh, and they were the kind where you had to sit and hold her, make sure she wasn't swallowing her tongue, make sure she's breathing. That's how scary they were. And these things were happening 2 to 3 times a week.
Wow.
Well, what do? You go to the doctor, right? We went to the doctors. The doctors put Terry on 4 different seizure medications, drugs, pharma. One after the other, as they didn't work.
How was she feeling through those?
Well, hold on.
Okay.
They put her on one. Didn't work. Went back in, still seizing. Second one, same thing. Third one, same thing. Fourth one, same thing. She even had a seizure one time right in the doctor's office.
Wow.
That's how bad it was. Our lives were over. I say ours, because we've been married now. It'll be 49 years this summer. And she is my life. And it was over for both of us. If this was going to be life in our later years, it was going to be a life of hell, to put it bluntly. In desperation, Colorado had legalized. Prohibition was gone out there. We had friends in Mexico who we knew down there, lived up in Colorado. I had read about these children who were being saved from seizures by cannabis. In desperation, we drove to Colorado. My wife had a seizure in the motel the night before we got there. We arrived in Colorado. Our friends went in now and had to illegally buy it. We were breaking the law, all of us. because we were not from Colorado. You had to be from Colorado, and you had to have the permission.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they had it. So they went in and got it legally, brought it out. My wife then 3 liquid drops under the tongue. And let me say that from that day forward, they would send it to us illegally in Minnesota. Well, here's why they sent us to us illegally in Minnesota. Because when she took those 3 drops under the tongue in Colorado, my wife has never had a seizure since.
That's amazing. That's
not
wonderful.
One, unless they're hidden, unless they're somehow hidden, which could be, who knows what happens with your brain and what, things like that. But she has not had a physical seizure since the 3 drops. And then she started taking the 3 drops. We got back to Minnesota. They'd send it to us illegally. We're breaking the law. We go to jail. I testified in front of the Minnesota legislature. I said it came down very simply. Keep my wife alive or break the law. I broke the law. The governor of Minnesota broke the law. And
you
I
have
said
to.
that. I said that right over there. And I said, and also, and here's the fun part. I said also, in this case, let me quote my friend Clint Eastwood when he played the great Dirty Harry. And he looked out and said, well, then the law is wrong.
It is.
So I quoted Dirty Harry.
I love it.
Dirty Harry Callahan. Anyway, though, so my wife then they made medical legal in Minnesota. She qualified immediately. It was now pill form. She could take it by pills. Here was the kicker, though. It was so restrictive in Minnesota, it cost me $600 a month to keep her seizure free. And here's the other part. Your medical insurance, they happily paid for these 4 drugs that didn't work from pharma. They paid them, no problem. They won't pay 1 cent on cannabis. Yeah. So I was paying the $600 a month out of my own pocket. I turned to my wife. I said, I like cannabis to begin with. I need it for the mental health. And I said, why don't we move to Colorado? I said, this is the equivalent to damn near a mortgage.
Discover the power of Yorma's Choice CBD products. When we chose a sober life, we searched for the best CBD to manage our chronic pain. In Raywood, Kentucky, the home of Bickett and Boone, we found the perfect solution. Yorma's Choice is a range of topicals, tinctures, bath salts, and gummies. Choose Yorma's Choice for pain-free living. Shop now at furpeaceranch.com. FURPEACERANCH.com.
I said, we could move to Colorado. You could get it for $30 then instead of, 300 or $600 a month. Mm-hmm. Well, then Minnesota opened up. The prices dropped to $300. And now they've dropped to the point where it's where Colorado is. Finally, after almost, a decade?
Right, right. Well, and that's...
And so that's my story. And that is why today I am focused on cannabis, because without cannabis, me and my wife had lost our lives. Cannabis saved our lives. And I don't want nobody in Minnesota or anyone else have to go through what we went through simply to get this plant that should be legal anyway. And it should be available to anyone who has a problem like Ty's mom and my wife had, that it should be available out there and not have to cost you an arm and a leg and driving halfway around across the country.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's actually one of the things that we're dealing with here in California, is that with legalization, the taxation has become so high that people have been turning to the illicit market. And then the state takes that tax money and starts to use it towards enforcement. And if they had actually had lower taxation, they would be having higher sales, getting more taxes, and not having to pay for enforcement, and people would have safe access to their medicine.
Well, do you know what that, just so you in California don't realize that you're not the only stupid legislators in the country. Let me give you the example of, on a different subject, of what the Democrats here in Minnesota stupidly have done.
What?
Well, I own 2 Teslas now. They now charge me $75 for not using fossil fuel.
What?
Yep. There's a $75 tax if you buy an electric car that you, to get your license tabs, you have to pay $75. And this is the Democrats who claim to be for the environment. And you have to pay $75 extra to license your electric car because, and here's their argument, you're not buying fossil fuel, and that's how we get the money to fix the roads.
Oh, see, Jesse, come to California.
They penalize the people who are doing it right.
Right.
And they reward the people who continue to drive fossil fuel cars, polluting the air. Like I argued to the governor, I said, how much does it cost us to clean up the air pollution and the weather we're receiving because of these cars? And you people are penalizing people for doing the right thing? And you wonder why people hate government?
I know. There's
your example. They're doing the right thing and government's turning around and kicking them right in the you-know-what.
Yep. Well, like, what do you think about this? When I talk to
people... and then Walt says they're going to take it off next year, that they couldn't get to it. I'm going to demand more than that. I'm going to say not only take it off, give a rebate back to all of us electric drivers that year, subtract another $75 off of it that we had to pay this year. They had it off. I complained about it. And then they put it back on.
Oh, geez. That's crazy.
Because last year, my car didn't have it. 2 years ago, it did.
It did.
Last year, it didn't. Now, this year, it's back on again.
Oh, see, here
and they just had a big budget surplus in Minnesota.
You'd get a rebate here, and you'd be able to use the carpool lane for free.
Yeah, and you wonder why people want Jesse back as governor.
Right? Jeez. But I mean, it's...
Oh, by the way, let me throw this out too. You know, I met with Bobby Kennedy.
You did?
Oh, yeah. He came out and met with me for 3 hours, and apparently I finished second.
Uh-huh.
But I'll only tell you this. I can't tell you how many people come up to me on a daily basis right now and tell me that Bobby made the wrong choice.
Well, he did. He did.
But you know what? In the long run, I think he did me a favor, because now I can concentrate on cannabis and truly enjoy my private life and not get involved with that crap.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's so true. When we look at policy, one of the things that I always mention to people, because, you know, you hope that the people that you vote for understand things and that they're surrounding themselves with knowledgeable people that can give them all the information that they need. But policy isn't always influenced or informed by facts. A lot of it is state culture and a lot of it is stigma. And what would you say about that?
Wait, you're forgetting the biggest thing. Payoff, payola.
Yeah.
Money.
Yeah.
Who's behind the scenes paying the tab and making campaign contributions?
Truth.
That's the gorilla in the room.
So how do we use that to change the way they're looking at cannabis policy?
Well, you can either fight it or join it. True. You know, cannabis needs to, you know, it's a game of lobbyists, and it's distasteful to say that you'd have to play that game because it helps continue what shouldn't be done in the first place. But, you know, the end justifies the means sometimes.
Right.
You know, and if that's the rules you have to play under to succeed, well, then maybe sometimes you got to hold your nose and play under those rules a little bit until you can get in a position to change those rules or change the culture of what goes on. It's like I've said publicly, the Democrats and Republicans have created a system based solely upon bribery.
Yeah,
I've told people, if you go visit your congressman, make sure to bring your checkbook. Because if you don't bring the checkbook, he ain't going to give a damn what you talk to him about.
Right. Yeah, that's so frustrating. It's especially when we're looking at, the president is saying the reclassification, he supports it, going from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3.
Here's what bothers me. Why is it the reclassification is left to the DEA?
Right?
An enforcement agency? That is outrageous.
Isn't it like foxes in the hen house?
Wait a minute. That's the equivalent of your local police department making the laws. They don't make the laws. They enforce the laws that are made by the elected officials.
Yes.
Why is this being pushed to an enforcement agency who has a dog in the fight? The DEA wants it illegal because they get more money.
Yes.
They get more money. And how do they get more money? By busting more people. The more people that go to jail, the more money the DEA gets. So it stands to reason they're not going to decriminalize cannabis like they should. And why are they put in charge of it in the first place? All I ask for is this, and it's simple. Treat cannabis identical to how you treat alcohol.
Yes. Yes.
And why is it, okay, I'm in the cannabis business now. Why is it illegal for me to do an ad about cannabis? I'm a Miller Lite All-Star. I got to push all the Miller Light beer. Tastes great, less filling. See, I even remember all the BS. But I mean, there was no problem with that. Right. They did a whole national campaign on me, Lightomania, Miller beer. And so it's perfectly fine for me to put my face, likeness, and everything behind alcohol. But cannabis, I'm not allowed to.
No.
I can't put my face on a cannabis product. Why not? See, though we're still fighting a huge bias. The war ain't over, people.
No, it isn't.
And for those that think it's over, think again. You got to keep your due diligence going until this thing is ended for good. And when it'll end for good is when the federal government finally declares cannabis the equivalent to aspirin.
No, you're right. You're so right. And Minnesota's been doing some really interesting things towards normalization, because I heard that there are actually Delta 8 beverages that are available in bars. And that's great.
Yes, there is actually.
You know what I've heard? I've heard the beer companies are in a panic.
Well, maybe they need to pivot.
Because all the young people, you got a whole generation now who's not drinking beer. And I mean, that is a blow to the alcohol industry. Why? Well, you can drink all the cannabis you want, and you ain't going to get sick and go throw up in the alley, are you?
No, you're not.
Well, I've done that with beer.
I think most of us who have experimented with alcohol have done that with beer or something else, you know?
And even better, with cannabis, you get up the next day, you don't feel bad.
Right.
How many of us have woke up the next day with your head pounding, totally dehydrated, and you still got the dry heaves in the morning?
Yeah. Yeah.
All from lovely alcohol.
Right. That's it.
And this generation of young people have decided they don't want to drink and get sick, and they don't want to have hangovers anymore.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty intelligent to me.
I think so. I think it does. Tyrel, you were going to mention something about that when we started talking about Delta 8 in bars.
Well, it's interesting how well, Minnesota, when you look at like the legislation that they put forward, it's still actively being adjusted, and there's a lot of really good activists both on the ground here as well as in the legislature who are trying to learn from the mistakes and successes from other states that have gone legal. Both in they're learning, what did California do right? What did they do wrong? What did Colorado do right? What did they do wrong? And trying to craft legislation and craft rules that fit, especially for the state of Minnesota. And you do see, as Jesse was saying, he took a lot of the words out of my mouth of what I was going to say, but you do see this shift in society here, at least, where you're not seeing, people go out and they might have a few cocktails, things like that, but really the push for, Delta 8 or cannabis infused drinks at the local craft breweries and things like that is going very strong. And people are really liking it for all the reasons that the governor pointed out of how it affects people. Plus, I think that there's a general overall push of saying, at the end of the day, I feel more healthy using cannabis than I'm going to ever feel using alcohol or cigarettes. I'm still a smoker, I admit it, but that there's certain things that plant does provide us that can't be beat. There's nothing else in the market or in society that can really compete with what it does for us all. And thankfully, the state of Minnesota seems to be. It's always not, as Jesse said, you have to stay vigilant. You have to kind of keep fighting for what makes sense and what's right. But thankfully, the state of Minnesota so far is trying to do their best to not only create a cannabis industry with a lot of equity, with a lot of, you hope they're going to keep focusing on, how do we raise up Minnesotans and small businesses and allowing people to get into this industry who are shut out of other industries or who don't have the clout to get into it or the financial backing to get into it. You hope that they kind of leave those doors open. And so, we'll see how it goes moving forward, but we're fighting here in Minnesota to try to learn from the mistakes and successes from those of you around the country that have already walked in these shoes.
If Biden wants to beat Trump, he needs to legalize before the election.
Yes. I think it's been one of the biggest mistakes.
If he would do a full federal legalization, or don't even call it legalization, just decriminalize it. Get out of the game. Okay, here's a good one. Women's rights. They all seem to, the Republicans especially, want to leave that up to the states. Well, let's leave cannabis up to the states then. Get the federal government out of it.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, if Biden would do that, he would help secure his reelection, because if you win over the pot smokers of America, that's a big, huge voting block.
It is. And it's a much different group than people think.
Oh,
much different.
More
group.
Diverse. It spans now decades. I'm a product of the 60s. I've been with the underground pot for years. I remember going on a book tour to New York, and I ran into a friend that I met who lived in New York and would travel to Boulder, because Boulder, you could always get it, apparently, when it was still under prohibition.
I don't doubt it.
Well, that Boulder was like the key city in Colorado, apparently, where it all blossomed out of. But he come up to me at a book tour, sidles over next to me, doesn't say a word, and slips me 2 joints. See, that's how the underground cannabis world worked in the old days. We took care of each other.
Yeah.
Even though the government was against us all. And that feeling is still there in the industry. And as long as we keep that as a focal point of the industry and keep it local and keep it, Minnesotans buy Minnesotan. That's our thing with our cannabis here. We can produce it just as good as anywhere else in the world. And by the way, I just sold my house in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
You know what the problem is in Mexico now?
What?
cannabis is coming down from the U.S.
Yes. They're checking all the luggage. It's the truth. Yeah.
No, it's the truth. It used to be everybody talked about brown weed from Mexico.
The bricks.
And you'd get a bag of it and it'd be loaded with seeds and stems because it looks like it's right off of the plant, right over the border. Well, we now in the United States make the best in the world.
Looking to grow your cannabis business and expand your network? Join the National Association of Cannabis Businesses for just $50 a month and unlock exclusive access to new commercial opportunities and clients across the industry. Enjoy special discounts, free advertising, and access to members-only content. Whether you're starting out or scaling up, NACB tailors its memberships to propel you forward. Visit nacb.com now and join the leading community dedicated to cannabis business excellence.
So our cannabis is now being influxed into Mexico. The opposite's happening. Mexico better put up the wall.
Well, and then when we're looking at national legalization and everything, we're missing out because all these other countries are going to start to get ahead, and we have this unique opportunity to be able to do exporting and really lead the charge with research and all sorts of things. Why can't we do that?
Well, one of the reasons is called the Republicans. And I'll state that from Minnesota. When it bogged down here, it was the Republicans. So I went personally, came up to the top Republican. I said, what's the deal on you guys in cannabis? Why, I said, I thought you're the party of business. I thought you're the party of, small business and all of that. I said, here you've got a business waiting to explode, and you people are stopping it.
Yeah.
Why? He looked at me and gave me the two lamest answers you can imagine. Well, we think there should be more studies. Go to Israel. They've studied it to death.
They have.
They've covered the gambit on it. You don't need no more studies.
Well, Jesse,
and then, of course, they came up with...
Jesse, society has been studying the effects of marijuana since damn near society began at this point in human history. I mean, my God.
Nobody's ever died from it.
Studies of, we've had enough. Come on. And then they brought up their ace in the hole. The children. I looked at the Republican and I said, have you been to Colorado? No. I said, well, take a trip out there. I said, go to a cannabis distributor. I said, if children in Colorado are getting cannabis, it's because adults are giving it to them. Because I said, it is so tight. When you go to Colorado, you don't have to show your ID once. You have to show it twice.
That's right.
You have to show it just to get into the waiting area. And then when your salesperson comes to take you in the back, you have to show it again. And I have to do it. And I'm 72 frickin' years old. I always tease them. I go, what, do you guys don't think I'm old enough? And, I tease them all the time when I'd stop in there. But I told the Republican, I said, if kids are getting it, it's because adults are buying it and giving it to them like they did booze. Because I remember growing up as a kid, when you wanted to score booze, you found an adult who would go in and buy it and then sell it to you or whatever.
Or you get it from the illicit market.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if he wants to get into studies, he or she wants to get into studies, the studies are showing that legalization is actually making it less attractive to kids. Because if your uncle's smoking it, it's not exciting anymore.
Not only that, but the dealers can't compete. Well, maybe they can in California now because you guys have treated it like idiots and you're overtaxing it.
Yeah.
But if you get back to reasonable, tax it like alcohol. If you get back to reasonable taxation, there should be nobody needing to go to the underworld. Or, like in Minnesota, I had to laugh. Ty, how many plants do they let you grow now at home here?
I think you can grow like about 5 to 6 plants yourself. Yeah. Legally, you can just grow 5 to 6.
If you're growing 5 to 6 plants at home, how many pounds does that transition into?
You have more than enough for the rest of the year. It's like, you'd have to be really smoking heavy to
I
run
think
out.
It's even higher than that, Ty.
Well,
I had heard it's
6.
double digit.
It's 5 to 6 for sure. That you can have as an individual.
Okay,
Yeah.
I had heard it was like 10.
No. It's not that much. Not that much.
You have enough for gifts as well.
You do. No, it's I think you bring up some great points about just why it boggles my mind to this day why people have such a terrible opinion of this plant and such a it's extraordinary now that we're in the 21st century and so far removed from Reefer Madness when that was a hit film. And that like mentality was, and the Hearst propaganda that he put out and all of that. We're in a place now where I think it's whatever authority comes in to say, oh, you can't do this, and here's why. We're in such an information sharing age, and people can literally see firsthand. Well, it's not hurting this person over here. There's no reason we should be doing this. And I think you brought up a great point. Studies have shown that the cannabis use in teenagers in the states where it's legal has dropped significantly because it's no longer this mysterious, wild thing that I can't, that's out there that, I want to go get. They're aware of what it does. And if you have good parenting, you don't have to worry about getting it into kids' hands. No. If you have responsible parenting and responsible adult figures in child's life to say, hey, this is what it does. This is what it can do. You probably want to wait until you're older. It does have an effect as your brain is developing. You don't want to mess with that too much, and that's called responsible parenting. And you don't need the government to do that for you.
No.
I'll tell you this, everybody. I'd rather see a young kid with a joint in his hand than a gun.
There is that. There is that.
I would rather see a kid. I don't want to ever see, keep it above 18, but I'd rather that than alcohol.
Well,
because
the point is,
you can get drunk on alcohol.
You ain't supposed to have a gun before 18 or 21 either.
Well, of course, but I look at it like this: is like you can get drunk and get into a car and kill other people. No one, I don't think anyone's ever really died or caused damage to somebody next to them because they were stoned. I don't think that's ever happened.
Right. And
it could.
You fall off the couch.
I would say this. People say, well, because that comes up, how do we test if people are smoking cannabis and driving? Which, as we all know, you shouldn't be under the influence of nothing when you drive.
True.
You shouldn't be, because driving is a serious matter. But I would say this. I don't fear the cannabis smoker driving as much as I fear the person texting.
Yeah. Well, they say that if you're texting, you're driving with the equivalency of somebody who is drunk.
Oh, easily. And so if they're out there texting, and here's the thing that's different. I would tell you this. If you run into somebody who's on cannabis driving, the chances are they'll be going too slow.
It's true.
They'll be in that right lane doing 45 or 50, and you'll be pissed off at them because they're slowing down traffic. It seems to me when you're on cannabis, the last thing you want is a bunch of fast excitement coming at you.
No, you're gonna be a pleasure cruiser. It's gonna be chill. Well, and I think people
put it this way. I've never thought about getting stoned when I was in the Navy SEALs and then going up and jumping out of the airplane.
Oh God, no.
Just sit on the bunk quietly.
Yeah, exactly.
Listen to some music.
Well,
in fact, if I got stoned, I probably didn't even want to get on the helo.
Right.
Let's talk a little bit about your company, because we haven't even touched on that. It's really exciting.
It is exciting. We spent 4 years developing the idea for Jesse Ventura Farms, and then we looked at California as a possibility. Obviously we brought it to Jesse first and kind of talked to him about and got his ideas and input and see if he was interested in the idea, which obviously we were because of the effect it had, the positive effect that it had on our family. And then when the governor, Jesse, came out and endorsed Minnesota Governor Walz for a second term, and Jesse, you can tell that side of the story. He called you the day after he won the election.
Well, the thing I like about Governor Walz was the day after he won the election for his first term, he called me, and I sat down and we met for over 2 to 3 hours. No other governor never did that before. I'd been out of office nearly 20, 15, 20 years. None of the others had ever called me to seek my input, and he did. And then I found out, too, he talked to Governor Carlson, who preceded me, and things like that. But he knew my position because way back in 98, I tried to legalize, and I couldn't even get one person to carry the bill. Mm-hmm. Couldn't even get one to carry. Here it was now 20 years later. And the good part is he called me on the phone, and he says, Governor, he said, next week we will be signing into law the decriminalization of cannabis. He said, this was your idea. You started it over 20 years ago. He said, you should be there to see the completion of what your dream was. He said, so I'd like you to be at my right shoulder, and when I sign it, I will hand you the pen.
You were ahead of your time, Jesse.
So I went there and was very proud with the First Lady. When the governor signed it into law, he turned around and handed the pen to me. And hopefully I'll be known now forever as the cannabis governor of Minnesota. And I've now got the company backing me up to prove it.
And that's exactly it. Me and my partners, Tabitha Wallace, Rob Watson, and Jeff Moore, we got together, formulated Jesse Ventura Farms. Originally, we were going to call it Jesse Ventura Cannabis, but then the banks wouldn't allow us to use cannabis in the name, so we had to turn it to farms. But then as we put together this company, after that signing and that momentous moment in Minnesota, we realized, okay, well, we wanted to find Minnesota companies that could essentially use Jesse's name, create an amazing product, and also then be lifted up through obviously all of the kind of notoriety and celebrity of Jesse's name and his passion for this industry and wanting to see it become wanting to see it become on the level of like the alcohol industry or something like that, where it's really just, there's no longer any, federal implications regardless, involved in it. And people are no longer getting hurt by breaking the law and families are being helped. And so that's when we found this local brilliant Minnesota company, Retro Bakery, who creates some amazing, like Delta 8, Delta 9 hemp derived products in gummies and chocolates and things like that, and they're just a beautiful company. They're located right in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota, which is right next to the city that Jesse was governor or was mayor of back in the early 90s, the city I grew up in. So it's just they're really beautiful people over there, and they have a really good outlet on how to run a company and how to make a great product.
I think the greatest thing was when I made the announcement that I wanted to be involved in the Minnesota cannabis industry. They were the first company that night that walked up and handed Ty a card.
That's
and
cool.
said, we want to do business with the governor.
Wasn't even a card. They handed over a complete proposal.
And really,
and they didn't even know what we were looking for yet. They were that hot. And so it just, we still met with a lot of other companies and a lot of other good companies. There's a lot of really great, cannabis and hemp based companies in the state of Minnesota, not just this one, but of all of them, they really rose to the top, and we realized this was a really a match made in heaven, and it was a dream come true. It was 4 years of hard work. Then on 420, obviously, this last year, we were able to kind of go public and launch all the products, and we're really proud of what we're doing. And we have some really, really fun stuff lined up to, continue to produce new and innovative products into the summer and into the fall. And it's just been a true pleasure. And it's nice to, as a son, it was really great to help my father live out a dream and see that dream, help make that dream come to fruition. And then at the same time, also provide this incredible experience for everybody out there looking for a good gummy and a good chocolate and a whole lot more to come.
That's exciting. Well, I know when we posted on social media about you guys being on the show, and there were a few people that were like, shout out to them and Retro Bakery. And they were just really, really excited about you guys being here.
No, I couldn't be more excited. I've been over there hands-on into Retro Bakery, and we've done advertising now, and I'm learning that the world of advertising is now not television, it's the internet.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you got to focus on and all that. And we do some ads that they in and of themselves are going to be classics, because we have a guy at Retro Bakery who's our head man, Dr. Dabbs. And when you'll see him on an ad with me, and he makes me look small.
What?
Oh yeah. And I'm 6'4". Well, I only weigh 220 now, but at one time I was 265. Dr. Dabbs is as big as any NFL football player on the planet. And he's got the hairstyle of Bob Marley. And you see these ads with him and me, they are classics, because you look at this guy, and then when he talks, you find out he's one of the most extremely intelligent chemists walking the planet Earth.
Yeah, he has a PhD in cannabis and in the plant, and the way that he can infuse products and how he makes that work, and just it's like walking into Willy Wonka's over there. They're truly geniuses at what they do. And it was just this great match made in heaven, in terms of like Jesse's personality and his passion mixed with their know-how and their passion. And I got to say, it's great products. When you have a candy bar that's infused with THC, but then I don't particularly use a lot, but a lot everybody I know and love does. But when you have a candy bar that you're like, I could even eat that candy bar outside of just the THC.
Right.
Like it's that good of a candy, and you're just like, wow, and so then when you combine the two together, because the key that we were looking for with this company is you have to find a company with heart. You have to find a company that wants to do products and then also wants to give back. A diverse company that we want to do products that, like, percentages of our proceeds from that product will go into the charities, into groups that were affected by the war on drugs over all these years, along with other groups, from veterans groups, peace groups. You really want to kind of take that model that you see in certain other really forward thinking companies like a Ben & Jerry's or that, where they put their money where their heart is and where their passion is, beyond just making a product to sell.
Right. Well, and going back to the affordability of cannabis and the fact that when people are critically and chronically ill, it's very expensive to live anyway, especially if you're having reduced work hours or not able to work at all. In California, I was part of a group back in the medicinal days. We had what were called compassion programs, where we would get donations from cannabis companies so that we would be able to give free cannabis to people in need who are using it medicinally. And when we passed legalization here, the people who constructed Prop 64, when they drafted it, they forgot about the patients. And so we ended up working together as a coalition to pass the Brownie Mary and Dennis Perone Act, which allowed us to be able to start doing donations again and not tax the donations to put, undue stress on companies. And even though we're dealing with a lot of extinction events and things that are going on, the generosity of the industry has been amazing. And now we're in the midst of passing another bill because the old one is sunsetting. It's something that I would love to see in every state, because for me, I was working, middle management in a nonprofit when I was had stage 3 colon cancer, and it was expensive for me to be able to purchase what I needed, much less somebody who hasn't been able to work forever. Yeah. What do you think that we can do to start creating greater accessibility and more compassion for the people who need it the most?
I'm only laughing. The first thing we could do is get rid of the Republicans so we can have single-payer health care. Single-payer health care. Can we find a way to lose the Republicans? And we're the only nation, the industrialized nation in the world, that doesn't have single-pay health care for their citizens. And who's responsible for that? The Republicans. Why? What have they done? Well, here's what they've done. They've put an insurance man in between you and your doctor. Mm-hmm. So until we eliminate that nonsense, if we can eliminate that and get to single payer, I believe everything else will then help fall in line. And you'd see the healthcare industry become far more manageable than what it is today. I mean, it is ridiculous. I have to take blood thinners. Do you know what they would cost me if I didn't have the insurance? $500 and some for a bottle of pills?
That's insane.
Come on.
And what are other countries paying for it? That's the thing.
Yeah.
Sarah, at the first, I want to just applaud you for doing that good work on the ground and creating some legislation, helping create legislation like that really does, give the people who need it the most, who don't have the ability to get it. That's a really incredible work that you're doing there. I think it's on all cannabis businesses, whether you're, as we kind of work this out and as we fight that big battle, like Jesse's saying, of getting us to a healthcare system that actually wants to provide for the people instead of just make money off of people. It's on businesses, it's on individuals in this community and in this national community of cannabis businesses and growers and everybody involved in it. It's on us to really look at how we do business, and it's on us to say, okay, what can we do to provide for those that can't afford, that do need this plant for all of its brilliances. How can we teach them, hey, if you can't afford it, can we teach you to grow it? Can we teach a family member to grow it in your house to where you can utilize it that way? Can we give free?
Yes.
Can we give free? Yeah. Can we give, how much free things can we give out to help people? I think you need systems like that you created out there. You need systems like that in every state. And then hopefully once it's federally legalized, you need national programs that do that, because I think you're on the right track right there. But until that happens, then it's got to be up to the individual and the companies to have that heart and know where they came from. Cannabis at the end of the day is man, you go back to its history and things like that. It's a shared plant. It's a plant built on love and music and community. That's why you do it. That's part of the euphoric high, is that.
Right.
And remembering those roots. Sorry, the pun, but remembering those roots of where it comes from in terms of being a plant that's a community plant.
Yeah. Yeah. And having the creativity, the compassion, the critical thought. And I think that this is a great way also to get people politically active, because if you're upset about the lack of what's available in your state or your policies, it's time for you to get active and start voting and start reaching out to your congresspeople and your senators and your policymakers and letting them know, I'm a contributing member of society. I pay taxes. I use cannabis and I vote.
And there's another thing for all the people out there. There's a simple rule to live by. If you don't vote, don't bitch.
Truth. So for those of you out there who are thinking you don't like your choices this coming election cycle, if you sit on your hands, you get what you deserve.
Yeah. If you don't vote, then you have no right to bitch.
No,
and I think, what's interesting about this too is cannabis, and the legalization of cannabis is a great example for people that say, oh, the system's too big, you can't change it. And I understand that kind of cynicism.
Absolutely.
I get it.
It's tiring.
But you can look at how we went from total illegalization of cannabis to now you have, more than half the states in the union, basically pushing back against the feds saying, hey, we're going to legalize this, make money off of that. That's a great example of a success story.
It sure
That's
is.
activism that started on the ground, started in the city halls, started in the state houses, of people saying, no, we're tired of this. We want to change this. And then it's working. So, for all the cynics out there, you can look at this industry and say, oh, it does. You can make changes. You can see things succeed and move forward. So,
and we all need to give a good hip, hip hooray to the courage of the legislators of Colorado.
Yeah.
Who took it upon themselves to have the courage to be the first state to lift the prohibition.
Yeah, I thought we were going to beat them.
Is it perfect in Colorado? Of course not.
It's never going to be.
But they were the first ones that did it and stuck by the decision. And it's paid off for them in spades, I bet. You know what I've heard, and I don't quote me on this, but I've heard that if one of the benefits in Colorado now from cannabis, if you're a kid born in Colorado, you can now go to state college and get a 4-year degree for nothing.
Wow.
Now, what a brilliant move by the cannabis people. What parent is going to vote against that?
Right. Right. I know.
Oh, gee, I'd rather have my kid go into $50,000 of debt.
I know we're running out of time, but my first question I normally ask, but I was so excited to see you both, was what was your first cannabis experience? And Jesse, would you graciously share that?
My first cannabis experience was at the end of my senior year of high school. I had finished playing all sports. Football was over. My swim season was over. I didn't do nothing in the spring, and it was getting towards graduation. You're going to graduate soon, still 17, going to turn 18 in July. But it was a time to, how do you say it, mischief?
Yep.
It was a great time for mischief. At that point in your life, you're going to, and my friend's parents went down to a rural town in Minnesota for the weekend, and that meant his house was open for the weekend.
Oh, boy.
And that meant that Friday night would be poker till all hours of the night, playing cards, drinking, doing all the things you're not supposed to do as 17-year-olds. And he had a brother who was at the second or third year at the University of Minnesota by then. So in the late 60s, 69. And so marijuana had already seeped into the U, over at college. But it wasn't really anywhere else in Minnesota at that time, at least to my knowledge as a 17-year-old. Well, he had some in a bag and rolled us a big joint and said, here, why don't you guys try this? It's marijuana. And geez, we all looked at it and we'd all heard, oh, marijuana, what's that? But we were Southside toughs. It wasn't going to stop us. So one of us lit it up and we smoked it. He showed us how to inhale it, keep it in your lungs, and then exhale it. And I will tell you this, I took the first big inhale, and when I exhaled it, an immediate feeling came over my body. And I turned to my best friend and I said, to hell with drinking. I said, this is way better.
Amen. Amen.
And I didn't become a big pot smoker then because I didn't have access to any, you know. I mean, back then, I guess I could have gone over to the U and hung around over there and seen. And I did work at Mama Rosa's Italian restaurant, which was right over in Seven Corners, right off the campus. So the possibility was there. But I was going in the Navy at that time, so it never reared its head again. And then, of course, when you fill out to join the Navy, you have to lie. No, because they ask you, have you ever used marijuana?
Sure.
And if you answer it truthfully, you will get flagged.
Wow.
You will be flagged the whole time. I had a friend in the SEALs with me. He was honest. He had gone to college for a while. When he joined the Navy, they asked, have you ever tried marijuana? He was honest. He checked yes. It turned out he was flagged his entire enlistment. that his records were flagged because of that. So you got to lie when it comes to filling out them government documents.
Well, thank you, Governor. Now I know.
Well, you don't want, because, if you're joining the service, it's going to haunt you. Those
Right.
documents go
Barely.
forever. And no, my friend, I won't say names, but it turned out he was and he was a great sailor, hell of an operator.
Wow.
It didn't affect him. I mean, he went to college, smoked a joint, big deal.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And no, so that was my first time. That was 1969, probably in the month of May.
The perfect time for it.
And then the next time that I know I did it, I was actually in the Navy. And I can tell you the exact date. July 28th, 1970. About a year and 2 months later. You know why I remember it?
Why?
That was the night I saw Jimi Hendrix live.
Oh, that's perfect. That's perfect.
And when you saw Jimi Hendrix live, it was even more enjoyable to be stoned.
I imagine so. I mean,
Jimmy's like a perfect musician. I don't think you'd find a better one.
Yeah. He probably would have been happy to hear that you did that too. He'd be happy that you enjoyed his music with some weed as well, I'm sure.
I'll finish with this quick story. When I was inaugurated governor, they always have a big ball, right, where everybody gets dressed up in tuxedos and you go listen to Glenn Miller music, right? Mm-hmm. You know who Glenn Miller is?
I sure do.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, I thought to myself, that's not me. I'm a rock and roller. The hell do I want to do that for? So we held the People's Party at the Target Center where the Wolves play. Sold it out. 18,000 people packed. $15 All we charge people, $10. Sold out. And that's where we held and that night I said to my wife, I'm going back. So I'm the governor. I put on a do-rag. I put in earrings. I put my fringe jacket on, and I wore my favorite Jimi Hendrix T-shirt.
Nice.
That I have. End of the story. 2 weeks later, I'm in the governor's office at the Capitol, and this gigantic box arrives. And I open up the box, and I read the cover letter. And inside the box is about a dozen Jimi Hendrix T-shirts, every CD he ever did, all this paraphernalia of Jimi Hendrix. The cover letter comes from his daughter.
Oh.
She's the head of the Hendrix Foundation up in Washington. And she wrote to me on behalf of the Jimi Hendrix Foundation. I want to thank you for what you did at your inauguration ball. She said, please accept all of this as a gift from the Jimi Hendrix Foundation. And she said, if ever in the future there's anything we can provide for you dealing with Jimi Hendrix, please never hesitate to ask.
That'd be awesome to get.
Sent back a thank you thing. And I got about 5 or 6 Hendrix T-shirts now that I've never seen before.
That's so cool.
You know, but the Jimi Hendrix Foundation sent me a whole every CD, every song he ever did. You know, and why? Because somebody took a picture of it and made it into Rolling Stone. They had a picture of me standing there, and there's Jimmy and I got the fist raised up in the air.
I love it. I love it.
It's a great story.
That is a great story.
Well, Ty gave we got to get end here.
Yeah.
Tyrel did a thing for me, Tito and Hendrix. Have you seen this where young people listen to people for the first time in their lives?
Yeah. I love those videos.
Oh, yeah. Ty brought me one of these 2 young people, and they're listening to Jimi Hendrix for the first time, apparently. And they asked them who they thought was the greatest guitar player ever. And they had a good choice. They said Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Excellent choice.
Hell of a choice. But who was Stevie Ray Vaughan's idol? Ta-da! That's what we're getting to here.
Yep.
Anyway, they showed these two young people the tape of Jimi Hendrix originally at, I think, Monterey, doing Hey Joe. And he starts playing, and of course the lyrics come out, and the girl's immediately offended. Well, hey Joe, where you going with that gun in your hand? I'm going down to shoot my old lady. You know, I caught her messing around with another man, so I gave her the gun. I shot her. Well, the lyrics are not exactly what a female would want to listen to.
True.
About a guy, Joe, taking his gun and murdering his girlfriend.
Yeah.
That's what he does. And then he's going to run away to Mexico. That's the song. He then is going to run away to Mexico where they can't find him. Well, it gets to the great Hendrix guitar solo. Now the girls kind of come back a little bit. She's listening to and the guy. But this is one where Jimmy goes up and doesn't miss a beat and plays it with his teeth. He flips the guitar up. He doesn't miss anything. He's playing it with his teeth. These two young people go ballistic. They stopped the tape down. They made him rewrite it, play it again. And I can't believe this. He's playing it with his teeth. And then, of course, Hendrix flips it around and plays it behind his head.
Right.
That follows it. But I think these two young people, it was a remarkable thing to watch them react to the great Jimi Hendrix the first time they saw him. And that, for a guy like me, was really something. And I'll finish with this. You know who the hottest young band is that I listen to now?
Who?
They're Led Zeppelin reincarnated.
What's her name?
Greta Van Fleet.
Greta Van Fleet. Yeah, they are amazing.
Oh, do you know what they the beat writer for rock and roll, they played here last fall and I missed them. I was so angry. Do you know what he wrote about the lead singer of Greta Van Fleet?
What? He
said he's the only male vocalist who can hit notes higher than Nancy Wilson of Heart.
Yeah, well, I mean,
that's a hell of a compliment, because boy, Nancy Wilson's got some pipes.
Oh, she's amazing. Amazing. And also one of the few people who's been able to make Robert Plant cry singing his songs.
That's so true.
Well, I don't know about that, but they do their own songs.
Yeah.
They're and Robert Plant, did you hear where Robert Plant remarked about them? He said, "I'm jealous." Because, Robert's in his 70s now. He can't hit those notes no more.
No, well, no.
He used to hit them.
Yeah, every musician I know, like all their songs, they take them down. My husband is a professional musician. On all of his songs, he has to take down a little bit. He doesn't go that high anymore, and he used to hit the notes. Ooh. I was amazed. Yeah. Well, I know we've got to wrap it up, but for people who want to follow you on social media and see what you're doing, how do we do that?
Well, I'm on Substack, and I do a show called Die First, Then Quit. That's an old Navy SEAL slogan. It's in the locker room.
I love it.
As you walk out the door, it says, "Die first, then quit." Yeah. So we do a show on Substack where we're changing it all the time. And I'll just warn the people, if it's writing, it's my son. If it's talking, it's me.
That's usually how it goes.
On Substack. And I think Tyrel takes care of all my stuff on
social media.
That. See, I'm computer illiterate. I have to confess, so everyone knows, I've never owned a cell phone.
Hey, good for you. They take over your life.
Yeah, I don't know, but I've never owned one, and I've now made it my life's mission. I want to see if I can die and never own one.
How we do it is Jesse usually will tell me what he wants on social media, whether it be X or Facebook or whatever, and then I basically translate his message out to the social media things. But no, you can find us on X, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Jesse Ventura Farms. You can find that on the retrobakery.com. You can basically find us anywhere. Just look up Jesse Ventura Farms Retro Bakery. You can find the products there. You can find me and Jesse, like you said, on Substack, Die First Then Quit, as well as most of the big, if not all of the big social media platforms. Yes. So
Tyrel, we should spring one on them. The body may be coming back to the WWE.
I heard that. I was going to ask.
Talks about that too happening. Talk fun stuff with that too. But we are running out of time.
There's negotiations in the wind.
So there you go. I like that.
By the way, who's the champ now? Seth, what's his name?
No, Cody Rhodes.
Cody Rhodes? Well, maybe I should do an interview and say I could kick your old man's ass. I'm coming back to kick yours. I'm coming out of retirement, Cody. Get ready.
All righty. We have to get going. I'm so sorry.
No. You are so...
Hey, Ty, do you think that'll go? What do they call that when it goes ballistic on the internet? I challenge Cody Rhodes.
This goes viral.
Viral. I'm coming out of retirement. I'm coming after Cody Rhodes. Whip his old man, so I'm going to whip him. Is it his father or grandfather?
Father.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Thank you, Sarah. This has been fun.
Oh, thank you. And I really, please come back anytime. I had such a great time talking with both of you.
Great. Thanks. We'll be back.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. And everyone, remember, if you like listening, please give us a review, share it with a friend. Let us know what your favorite episodes are. And if you'd like to stay in touch over social media, we are Planted with Sarah Pion on Facebook and Planted with Sarah on Instagram and Twitter. You can also go to our website, www.plantedwithsarah.com, or listen to us on our parent network, Radio Misfits Network, where there are other great podcasts, like one of my favorites, the Winemakers Podcast. So check it out. You can listen to Planted wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, whether that's Pandora, Spotify, Amazon, Google, Apple, Stitcher, TuneIn. We are there. So join us. And until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and remember, it's a wild world out there. Be good to one another. Until next time, take care.